Hi, everyone. My name is Bandoma, Callado, and I am a senior associate attorney at the Dolan law firm. I also serve as Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We are kicking off the year with a spotlight on two of our incredible associate attorneys, Casey Hultin and Katelyn Dembowski. Casey is an associate attorney at our San Francisco office. She is a graduate of UC Berkeley School of Law and is a graduate of the 2019 Jerry Spence's Trial Lawyers College. She's an active member of the Consumer Attorneys of California, or CAOC, and Consumer Attorneys Association of Los Angeles, or CALA. She is a lifelong citizen of Raider Nation and a karaoke league competitor. She is also fluent in Swedish. Katelyn is an associate attorney at our Oakland office. She is a recent graduate of UC Hastings College of the Law, and she is an active member of our firm's DE&I committee, as well as the Consumer Attorneys of California. She is a competitive sailor since she was 8, and she played water polo in high school and college. She is also an avid New York Yankees fan. So Casey and Katelyn, you recently tried a case in Santa Clara Superior Court and reached a plaintiff's verdict in the amount of, why don't you share the verdict amount?
Gosh, I don't even have it. Well, it was about $716,000 was the total, and then there was 25% comparative fault, so it comes down to around $536,000.
That's so incredible. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the case?
Yeah, so our client Tamiko was driving to meet a friend at Santana Row. And as she went through the intersection, she had a green light and another car entered the intersection turning left. It was controlled by lights on all directions, including left turn lane lights. The catch here is that while Tamiko said she had a green light, so did the guy turning left. And the police report ultimately went with him for a variety of reasons. And then to make matters worse, several years after the collision, a witness came forward who said that he thought that Tamiko was texting while driving. So we had a lot of uphill battles in terms of the liability end. And then injury-wise, you know, Tamiko's life really changed as a result of this collision. It was the one thing everybody could agree on. Every single witness that testified at trial said she was screaming in pain. Her leg was visibly broken. She fractured her femur in multiple places, had to have emergency surgery, have a rod put in, and then live in a skilled nursing facility for a month because there was no one to take care of her at home and help her with her activities of daily living. So the accident happened back in 2016, so it had been quite some time since then, but she was still dealing with pain and still having it impact her life. Ultimately, the jury's verdict, you know, showed that they believed she had the green light and also that she needed the future care and it can make an impact on her life.
Wow, she sounds like an incredible person. And you know, I know the stories that you both have shared with us, that it was really an honor to represent her. For you, Katelyn, you know, this is an opportunity to second chair your first trial. You know, you were the second chair to Casey, and you know, you're a first year associate. Can you tell us what that experience was like?
Yeah, it was an incredible, surreal experience. You know, I didn't expect to get to try a case in my first year of practice. And I think Chris pulled me aside at the CAOC convention 10 days before trial was supposed to start and was like, hey, I just talked to Casey. You're going to try this with her. So start getting ready. And I was like, okay, cool. And we kind of just dove in head first together. And Casey and I, you know, luckily we work really well together. We kind of live on the same wavelength most of the time. So we were able to, you know, really put our all into it. And I just learned so much, you know, not just from Casey, but from like our jury consultant, Claire Plotkin. She gave us so much insight into her strategy as a jury consultant. Learned a lot from our co-counsel, Sam Fareed. And, you know, from our client too. Tamiko is an incredible human being. And I met her, I think like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving on Zoom. And just in that like hour and a half, I was texting Casey and I was like, oh my God, she's incredible. She's a great person. And it was a real honor to work for her.
And Casey, was this your first trial during the pandemic?
It was my first as lead. I was in trial in San Bernardino with Chris, you know, just before, and I actually had to leave that trial early to do this trial. So yeah, it's different county to county. They all do things a little bit differently during the pandemic. And obviously it's all very different than before the pandemic.
Well, having had that experience of, really trying 2 cases during the pandemic, can you share with us some of the challenges of doing that?
I mean, I think the biggest one we ran into in Santa Clara was, first of all, keeping jurors there. Every day deliberations went out. I was worried we were going to drop below 12. The other big thing in Santa Clara that we didn't encounter in San Bernardino was there's still social distancing in there. So the jurors were sitting in the gallery, and that really led to some choices in terms of where you're going to do examinations from, how you're going to do them in a way where they can still see the witness, but you're still advocating in a way that feels comfortable for you. A lot of other people have challenges with speaking with a mask on. I feel like I have trained my whole life for this because I am the loudest person like in the history of humanity. No one has an issue hearing me with a mask on. I don't need a microphone. It's going just fine. But yeah, those were kind of the bigger challenges, or those more obvious things. And then you run into some strategic things with cases that I think we're going to continue to run into, even if this becomes more endemic. Our client is an esthetician and a makeup artist. So if we had gone in there and really hit hard, not being able to work or things like that, how's that going to resonate when everyone knows that industry was decimated by this pandemic? So there's just a lot of other considerations.
Were there any benefits about trying a case during the pandemic? Why don't we go with you, Katelyn, on this one?
Yeah, I think it's hard to find benefits, right, when you had to overcome so many challenges in the first place. But I think one was being able to have witnesses on Zoom. That proved to be really useful for us. Specifically, we had some witnesses who last minute couldn't come in, some people with COVID scares too, and so they had to be on Zoom. And with the way that the courtroom was structured because of the social distancing, the jurors were behind Casey, myself, and opposing counsel, and then the witness was all the way up next to the judge. So with an in-person witness, it was hard for them to see them. And with Zoom, we had extra projectors and screens around the room so that they were able to see the witness better. So I think that benefited us in a couple areas. And then, yeah, that's pretty much the only benefit I can think of. Also, I mean, we had some alternate jurors who we were looking to get onto the jury, hopefully. And because of COVID, they were able to get on that jury. But once we got through all 4 alternates and down to 12, it was really nerve-wracking. Even the judge had to tell the jury, like on the last day of argument, she's like, today's closing arguments, like, and then it's just liberation. Please, everyone stay healthy and like come back tomorrow. So, yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I think one thing that I was really curious about is something along the lines of what it's like, trying a case, both women, incredible lawyers, but, at the Dolan Law Firm, majority of our attorneys are women, but that's just not the norm. According to the American Bar Association's 2021 Profile of the Legal Profession report, the percentage of women lawyers only grew by 4%, from 33% to 37% over the last decade, even though roughly half of all law school graduates have been female since 2000. So the profession is still overwhelmingly male. During trial, did you feel like you had to do anything differently because you're a woman?
Trial, I think everything I do is different because I'm a woman, and in particular because I'm, in addition to being a woman, I'm a young woman. I think I carry myself with a decent amount of confidence, but if you start looking at my face, I have been very diligent with the sunscreen also, but I am, I'm visibly young, and I'm visibly blonde, and I'm visibly a lot of things that, aren't necessarily what you expect to see in a trial attorney. And especially sitting at counsel table with someone else who is visibly young, visibly blonde. We added it up at one point between me and Katelyn and our co-counsel, Sam Fareed, who's also a young attorney. If you multiplied all of our years of experience by 3, you still wouldn't have had as much experience as defense counsel, who was an older white male. So, there's just a lot of different choices you have to make in terms of when you're going to make certain arguments, how you're going to do certain things. When he has technology blunders with his jacket. It's kind of lovable, like a goofy uncle thing. I think if it had happened to me, it would have read very differently. So I don't get to have those kinds of blunders. There's just, little different things that go into all of it, really.
How about
Yeah,
you?
and I think to add to that, along the lines of also like our age, right? Casey and I, as she said, are visibly young, and it was kind of expected by the court that we were the ones that were doing everything that was needed outside of court hours. So if there was things that needed to be printed, it was expected that we were printing it. If there was things that needed to be, orders that needed to be prepped, I was the one sending it to opposing counsel, like, you got to look at this because we have to send it to the judge. And since I'm better at technology, let me just do it really quick. And so that, kind of played a role, I think, in how we were trying to interact with the court, especially being two young women. Our judge was also a woman, and at times maybe deferred to the more senior male sitting across from us. But yeah, it ended up working in our favor in the end.
Did you learn anything from the jurors about, any expectations or, because you are a woman who happens to be, or actually a lawyer that happens to be a woman, did they give any feedback on that at all?
No, I mean, honestly, the nice part about Santa Clara County, for better or for worse, is these people are hyper analytical. If that is something that they're thinking about, they're sure as shit not going to say it to you. They are so focused on where the facts are and what they're getting. And I just didn't get, it wasn't something that at least explicitly entered their calculus in any way. Once in a while, you get something weird from a juror about, would have liked to see this or that. And I once had a juror tell me that this seemed like a very stressful life and that I should maybe consider going back to fitness class teaching, which I think was really a kindness. I'm not sure that was gendered. I think he just rightfully so could see this as a very stressful job. But, I don't know if anybody would have said it to a male trial attorney either. But yeah, I didn't get any vibes like that from the jurors.
I want to talk about some of the lessons that you learned during trial. Casey, as first chair, what were your main takeaways?
I think most of mine were really, every single time, Katelyn and I are both athletes, and, you kind of go back and watch your game tape and try to figure out what little things you can improve on. I have a lot of really specific notes to Santa Clara County of things I would really hit a little differently in the beginning, because they're so analytical and they're so focused on wanting certain hard facts and hard evidence. I think I would, in hindsight, really hit that a little bit differently at the get-go. But the big improvement I think I had, on a broader trial attorney strategy this time, and Katelyn and I have talked about a lot about this. I was an ex-mock trialer. I did mock trial in high school, college, law school. And there's such a perfectionism that comes with mock trial in terms of, we don't use notes. We know every single exhibit number. We don't, sure, you have to be fluid, but you still have everything memorized. And that perfectionism can really limit you in an actual trial. So much of this one, I gave myself a little more freedom to actually use my notes and look at things differently than I have in the past. And I think that was helpful, especially dealing with all the additional stuff that we've been dealing with COVID.
How about you, Katelyn? What lessons did you learn?
Yeah, the first one I learned was, to expect the unexpected, right? Casey and I are very good, as former athletes, we like to plan, and we had planned this is exactly what's going to happen when defense witnesses come up, and then all of the defense witnesses took us by surprise, and multiple times during all of their examinations, Casey and I just kind of turned to each other and were like, okay, you just gotta, keep moving forward. So definitely expecting the unexpected, and just watching Casey be able to move from what she was planning on doing to a whole different aspect was really great to see how her strategy worked out that way. And it was a great learning experience. And then just being open and authentic. I think the jury really appreciated the way Casey gave her openings and closings, and the way she walked them through everything. And it was just so obvious that this wasn't just a client that we were representing so we could make money, right? It was a client that we cared about, we loved. And that really goes far. And I think that's what really helped us in the long run.
Do you have any tips for newer attorneys who want to be trial lawyers?
Get in there, man. I don't know any better way to learn than to get in there. You can sit here, sometimes I talk about it like learning a new language. You can sit in Spanish class all day long and memorize the vocab, but until you actually go somewhere where you're forced to speak it, you're not learning it. So it's kind of the same thing with trial. You can sit here and you can read and you can go to all these seminars, and of course they're going to help you, but until you can actually get in there and, experience what it's like to have a day where you turn to your co-counsel and say, I should have taken a job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, until you experience those feelings, but you keep going anyway, you're not going to get better at it.
As a follow-up to that question, I mean, it's not every firm where you can find somebody who hasn't been practicing more than 15 years or something like that, that gets an opportunity to first chair a trial. I mean, can you share with us how you approached Chris on going ahead and trusting you with first chairing this specific trial?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been really fortunate. I got lucky before I worked here. I found a firm literally on Craigslist, and I just went to these guys and said, this is what I want to do. And they said, okay, great, go. So, without that, I don't think that Chris would have given me the first chair chance, because I wouldn't have ever done it before, and I would have been a lot more limited. I'd already done 9 as lead before this. So I think at that point, it was a relatively easier pitch because we had just been in trial in San Bernardino, so he could see it wasn't like I'd been in 9 and just kind of sat there and hoped for the best. I'd been in, trials and knew what I was doing. So, for other younger attorneys, I think it's about finding somewhere where they'll give you that chance. And if you're not giving the chance where you are, go somewhere where you can. I think this is a changing landscape where, younger attorneys are welcome at counsel table more so than in the past. And there are plenty of firms out there that are, willing to give you that opportunity. And I'm proud to be at one of them.
And it also sounded like you really advocated for yourself. I mean, how can we be advocates for our client if we don't know how to do that for ourselves as well? For you, Katelyn, you were, very involved in law school with ADR, for example. Was there anything that you learned from law school that you were able to translate to this specific experience at all?
Not specifically to this experience. I took the ADR route in law school because at that time, 99% of our work was settlements. And so I find myself pretty proficient in that area, but trial work, I knew I would get the practical experience and the strategical experience working at this firm. And so that was like one thing that I did throughout law school was I made it very clear to whoever, all of the senior attorneys I worked under, as well as to Chris himself, that I want to try cases. I don't want to always just be sitting here settling things. I want to, if we're going to trial and you need somebody to sit there and make binders for you, I'll do it. And that's, that's probably my biggest advice is to just tell them look, I want to be here. I want to be in the room and I want to help you, and then give them work product that will show them that they can trust you with something like this. So yeah, even Casey and I don't work on the same team. Mari knows that, but people watching this don't know that. And so I had told Casey, I want to do this and I want to help you in any way I can. If I can just write MILs for you. And I wrote MILs for another attorney this weekend when I have a trial coming up that I have to write MILs for this week. But I was like, I'll write them for you because maybe one day you and I get to go to trial together. So that's what you just got to do, constantly be sticking your head out there, working hard, and showing that this is the field you want to go into. It's not easy, as we all know, it's not easy, and it's not opportunities that you get everywhere, but we're grateful that we work for Chris and he sees us as shining stars.
And I will add on to that too. If you have a case where, just based on what this case involved, it was very clear from my perspective when I went to Chris to talk about it, that this was kind of the perfect case for somebody to come in as a first-time second chair. That we could do this way. And it was a great opportunity for Katelyn, who, I had worked with and have seen had great work product. So, I think the more experience you have a duty to look and see what you can do to help other people get in those spots. Because it's just not easy always. Even if, and then like Katelyn said, squeaky wheel gets the grease. So be vocal about it. As everybody at our firm knows, I am unabashedly here to do trials. I do not care. Like, that is what I am here to, I say it, scream it. If there's one thing you know about me, it's that I would like to be trying cases. But I get to do it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that personally.
Anything else that we didn't cover today that you wanted to share about trial or being a lawyer? It's
stressful, but when you get to bring home a verdict for somebody like Tamiko, who, you know, we talked a lot about her outside of this, but just for people who may be only getting to know her here, this woman during trial, I have never had the kind of positivity from a client ever like I've had from her. She like had 50 different people praying for us, like some in Uganda. It was like a whole, she would send us like different meditative beats that she wanted us to listen to while we slept so that we felt confident, which I did, and it did actually work. And, you know, she would encourage us to like, please take a break, make sure we're getting sleep. Like, it was just a different thing for her. And it was really hard, you know, at first, because people I would talk to about this case were like, you guys are crazy. There's no way, like, you're dead in the water on this texting witness. I don't see it. But everybody who met Tamiko could understand where we were coming from. So, you know, super stressful job, a lot of hard work, but, you know, so many attorneys turned down this case, and I'm so proud that we got to do justice for this incredible woman who absolutely deserved her day in court.
Yeah, and we got that verdict December 21st. It was like the perfect Christmas gift, and that's what she kept texting us the rest of that week. She was like, this is the best holiday gift ever. Like, you guys are the best, you know, and it was just, it warms your heart to have a client like that.
And she still texts me, like, even, I'm sure she's been texting you too, Katelyn. She's like, so who are you helping this week? Like, you guys are the best attorneys ever. And it's just, you know, how do you not want to fight for someone like that?
Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. I really enjoyed learning more about the work that you both did on this trial. And, you know, the Dolan Law Firm is committed to deliver justice, equal justice for all. And one way we do that is by, you know, being committed to advancing and nurturing a diverse, equal, and inclusive workplace. And I think, you know, the opportunity that you both had as newer attorneys to try a case is a great example of that. So anyway, hope you all enjoyed this spotlight on Casey and Katelyn, and we will see you soon.